Hello and welcome to ThinkFwd. My name is Spencer Burke, your host for ThinkFwd. Today I'm joined with David Sachs here in Manhattan. It's pretty fun, great little place here at Bryant Park. Now, you're involved in photography, and I've enjoyed photography over the years, but as I've looked at your work, you have this amazing sense of being able to capture life in a lot of ways. I mean, there's a lot of action, a lot of expression. Tell me a little bit about how you got into this, you know?
Well, photography is really just a great excuse to meet lots of people.
Yeah.
And I like to use photography as an excuse to get myself involved in various subcultures, whether it's the ballet and hip-hop culture, or goth culture, or Coney Island sideshow performer culture, or African culture, Afghanistan, wherever it can take me. Photography is a wonderful way to interact with people. It's really an excuse to be in people's lives, because you're working together, both photographer and subject, to create the image.
Now, you did the Coney Island in a more of a black and white setting. Talk to me about that. That was a pretty interesting subject matter. What inspired you?
Yeah, well, I've always loved Coney Island. If you've never been there, go soon. It's changing. But the Coney Island sideshow is one of the famous sideshow, freak show things. You used to pay $1. You could go in and see the bearded lady and the strong man and the snake woman and the woman with tattoos everywhere, and I relate to those folks, you know, just as being a little bit outside the norm and doing what they love. You know, they love that kind of performing, sword swallowing, fire breathing, you know. So it was so much fun to get to know them and get to document a little bit of what they do.
You know, it seems like sometimes in the church, diversity is a difficult thing for people to embrace. But learning their stories and hearing the depth of who they are and where they're coming from, are there any parallels? Do you have anything, words of wisdom?
I think it's just human nature to fear the unknown and fear what we don't understand, what we can't relate to. Some wise person said something like the sum of a person's experience will determine their vision.
Interesting.
And so I think that being able to experience these different people and these different cultures helps expand my vision for who they are, and meaning where they are is really a beautiful thing. I really love it.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only subject matter, but sometimes perspective or point of view brings the viewer or listener or reader or whoever is bringing it, you know, but in photography it's kind of a visual. So it's, how about something like that? There's an educational part to this as well, of inviting people to see something they've never maybe seen in a way before. Is that I mean, as people view your work, what kind of responses do you hear sometimes?
I think, well, no one comes up and says, "Hey, that sucks," you know. People are generally encouraging, but I mean, I think in most art forms, you know, the two parts of the conversation between the artist and the medium, and then the second conversation between the medium and the audience. I try not to concentrate so much on the second part.
Yeah.
I just try to create photographs that mean something to me, and I hope they mean something to other people.
Yeah. Now, we've lived in a world dominated after the printing press of words, and maybe in some ways, and I'm not sure this was Luther's desire, but I think we've lost some of the arts. We've lost some of the logos as not just word, but image as well. Are you seeing bright spots of where the arts are being integrated a little bit more, or more doors opening, perhaps? Or
I think so. I mean, I think that hopefully in the church people are realizing that the visual arts are are a wonderful way to encounter God and to worship. And we've lost something there. You know, I think in my church we've seen a lot more the visual arts incorporated, a lot of fine art incorporated into what we're doing. And I think that's really enriched the conversation. You know, some people are going to walk in and say, I hope we didn't pay for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, but other people are going to ask questions, and that's ultimately what, you know, good art does.
Yeah.
Ask questions.
Well, and sometimes we're open to multiple interpretations of the work, too. You know, sometimes within words we say, no, there's one specific way to see it.
Right.
The arts or metaphors or story, or even the way Jesus spoke in parables, tends to have a different impression, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that, I think one of the questions you try to avoid as an artist is, you know, can you tell me what this means, or what's this about? You know, I'd rather ask that person questions and draw them out about where they are and, you know, just how they respond to the work from where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm. In your travels and as you've kind of experienced this, you're not only doing this as part of art, but also there's a real sense of philanthropic aspect of it. I mean, being able to use your work to not just create beauty, which is important, but also to create impact or action or motion, empathy. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, the giver is richer for having given. You know, I think that, I mean, I've been given a lot, and in as much as I've been able to give my photography away, I'm really the one who benefits, you know, in some beautiful ways. Mm-hmm. I've gotten to travel to 32 countries and shoot, and gotten to meet a lot of different people, you know, and just personally that benefits me so much. You know, it certainly gives me a perspective on life here in America. You know, it helps me not to take things for granted as much as I would have.
In trying to communicate this, I mean, the artist always has to drive between that very fine line of propaganda, you know, and art.
Oscar Wilde said, roughly, art by its very definition must be useless. And there's something to that. You know, we want to be careful not to commission art to prove a point. You know, I think art serves us better when we use it to display beauty, and whatever that looks like in that case, and to provoke thought and ask questions. But you know, art is propaganda. It never ends well.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. Well, any words of encouragement or even wisdom to the church that's, you know, wants to connect with the arts, you know, but you know, it's obviously extremely complicated, but maybe even just words of hope or encouragement.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
Well, I think what I've seen in the church is we really hate failure. And in the arts, you have to have some freedom to fail to move forward. And I think there has to be grace, you know. Artists are people, you know, they're people who struggle. Mm-hmm. And I think coming alongside artists and encouraging them in their work, helping them not to feel like they're on the margins, goes a long way towards not only bringing art into the church, but helping those artists to do what they do to the glory of God.
Mm-hmm. And then for that artist who's out there saying, oh, you know, if I just had an extra you know, piece of equipment, or you know, I mean, everybody doesn't have quite what we need.
That never ends.
Exactly,
that never ends.
It?
Yeah, I think, you know, work with what you have. I think that some of the, just in photography, you know, some of the greatest photographers, some of the greatest images were made with very low-tech equipment and very minimal lighting, and I think it's more about the vision of the artist to create with what we've been given.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. It's been great.